To the casual observer, the parrot is often reduced to a splash of bright color against the green monotony of the jungle, or a caricature defined solely by its ability to mimic the sounds of human civilization. Yet, this superficial image masks a biological complexity that rivals that of the great apes, and a lineage that stretches back to the ashes of the dinosaurs. As we prepare to unravel the intricate lives of these birds, I invite you to subscribe to this channel so you are notified of future stories that explore the hidden wonders of our natural world. To truly understand the parrot is to look beyond the novelty of a talking bird and encounter a mind that is shockingly similar to our own, housed in a body engineered for the skies. We are about to explore the mechanics of flight, the origins of language, and the emotional depth of a creature that has walked, climbed, and flown alongside us through the rise and fall of empires. Our journey begins not with their famous voices, but with the fundamental anatomy that makes their very existence possible. To truly understand the parrot, one must look past the bright colors and mimicry that captivate humans, and instead examine the biological machine engineered for a specific, demanding existence within the complex canopy of the world's forests. The story of their anatomy begins not with their famous voices, but with the fundamental architecture that anchors them to the trees, a design that diverges sharply from the majority of the avian world. Most birds, particularly the songbirds or passerines that populate our gardens, like sparrows and robins, possess a foot structure known as anisodactyly. In this common configuration, 3 toes point forward and 1 points backward, a layout optimized for stable perching on horizontal branches. However, the parrot lineage evolved a far more specialized and versatile tool known as zygodactyly. In this configuration, the bird possesses 2 toes pointing forward and 2 pointing backward, creating a symmetrical X shape that functions less like a simple stand and more like a high-precision industrial clamp. This evolutionary adaptation, which they share with woodpeckers and cuckoos, grants the parrot a vice-like grip and exceptional dexterity, allowing them to manipulate food with a level of coordination that rivals the hands of primates. While a chicken or a pigeon must peck at the ground, a parrot can lift a seed to its mouth, rotate it, and position it with micrometer precision, a biomechanical feat that is impossible for most other birds. This gripping power is not merely a convenience. It is a survival necessity for a creature that spends its life navigating the unstable, vertical world of the rainforest canopy, where a slip could mean a fall of 100 feet or more to the forest floor. This exterior dexterity is supported by an internal skeletal system that is a marvel of weight reduction and structural engineering. Like many masters of the air, parrots possess pneumatized bones, which means their skeleton is not a solid, heavy frame like that of a mammal, but is instead hollow and filled with air sacs. These bones are crisscrossed with internal struts, similar to the support beams inside an airplane wing, providing immense strength without the burden of mass. These air pockets are not just dead space. They connect directly to the respiratory system, allowing oxygen to permeate the very structure of the bird. This design is crucial because the metabolic cost of flight is astronomical, requiring a constant and efficient supply of oxygen that a dense, marrow-filled skeleton would prohibit. This skeletal efficiency extends to their most iconic feature, the beak, which is far more than a simple mouth. It is effectively a third limb. Observations of parrots navigating vertical tree trunks reveal that they are among the only creatures on Earth to exhibit tripedalism, or three-legged locomotion. They use their beak as a grappling hook, capable of supporting their entire body weight, which frees up their zygodactyl feet to find the next hold. This allows them to climb vertically with the ease of a squirrel, defying gravity with a slow, deliberate grace. This incredible strength in the beak is made possible by a distinct anatomical feature known as the craniofacial hinge. In human anatomy, the upper jaw is fused significantly to the skull, meaning we can only move our lower jaw to chew or speak. The top half of our mouth is a static part of our cranium. Parrots, however, possess a kinetic skull where the upper beak is attached to the cranium by a flexible, hinge-like joint. This allows them to move the upper mandible independently, raising it to accept large tropical nuts and then driving it down with tremendous leverage to shatter shells that would require a heavy hammer to break. This crushing force is applied through a beak made of keratin, the same fibrous protein that forms human fingernails, rhino horns, and turtle shells. Because keratin is a living, biological material, it is subject to wear and tear. Consequently, a parrot's beak never stops growing. Throughout the bird's entire life, new keratin is constantly generated at the base of the beak, pushing the structure forward. In the wild, the constant gnawing on hardwoods, abrasive nutshells, and mineral-rich clay acts as a natural file, keeping the beak trimmed and sharp. If this natural filing process is interrupted, perhaps in captivity where soft food is provided, the beak can overgrow, twisting into unusable shapes that prevent the bird from feeding. A testament to the delicate balance between their biology and the friction of their environment. Inside this powerful, crushing tool lies a sensory world that is vastly different from our own, defined by unique limitations and hidden advantages. When a parrot cracks open a walnut, it manipulates the kernel with a thick, muscular tongue that contains a secret interior structure, a bone called the hyoid apparatus. This internal skeleton gives the tongue the rigidity and precision of a finger, allowing the bird to separate the meat of a nut from the toxic skin or shell with surgical accuracy. They roll objects over the tip of their tongue to assess texture and shape, utilizing it as a primary touch organ. Yet, for all this mechanical sophistication, their sense of taste is remarkably blunt. While a human being experiences food through roughly 10,000 taste buds, a parrot navigates its culinary world with only about 300, or perhaps up to 400 in some species. These few sensors are located mostly on the roof of the mouth rather than the tongue itself, suggesting that for a parrot, the experience of eating is driven more by the tactile satisfaction of shelling and crushing than by the nuances of flavor profiles. However, what they lack in taste, they make up for with a visual spectrum that reveals a world invisible to humans. Parrots are tetrachromats, meaning they possess 4 types of color receptors in their eyes, whereas humans usually have only 3. This 4th receptor is tuned to the ultraviolet spectrum. When we look at a parrot, we might see a uniform patch of green or blue feathers, but to another parrot, those same feathers are glowing with ultraviolet patterns that signal health, age, and sex. This allows species that look identical to our eyes, where the male and female are visually indistinguishable to us, to tell each other apart instantly based on the UV radiance of their plumage. This ultraviolet sensitivity also aids in foraging. The waxy coating of many fruits reflects UV light, making ripe food stand out like a beacon against the green foliage. The vibrancy of their plumage is itself a chemical marvel. Most birds, like cardinals or flamingos, derive their red and yellow colors from their diet, specifically from carotenoids found in plants. If a flamingo stops eating shrimp and algae, it eventually turns white. Parrots, however, have evolved a unique metabolic pathway to synthesize their own pigments, known as psittacofulvins. These distinct chemicals, found in no other vertebrates, are resistant to bacteria and degradation. This is a critical adaptation for birds living in humid, tropical environments where feather-degrading bacteria are rampant. The psittacofulvins not only provide brilliant reds, yellows, and greens, but also strengthen the feather structure against decay, ensuring that a parrot's colors remain brilliant and functional, regardless of its diet. Distinct from this visual brilliance is the mechanism of their famous vocalizations. Despite their ability to mimic human speech, chainsaws, and other birds with eerie accuracy, parrots have no vocal cords. They do not possess the larynx structure that humans use to speak. Instead, they produce sound using a specialized organ called the syrinx, located deep in their chest at the precise point where the trachea splits into the 2 bronchial tubes, leading to the lungs. This placement is key to their vocal abilities. Because the syrinx sits at this junction, a parrot can vibrate the air coming from each lung independently. This effectively gives them 2 voice boxes. They can produce a high-pitched tone from the left side and a low-pitched tone from the right side simultaneously, weaving them into the complex, multi-layered calls that echo through the rainforest. By manipulating the muscles around the syrinx and adjusting the shape of their trachea and open beak, they can articulate sounds that rival the complexity of human speech, all without the soft tissue folds that we rely on. This biological setup makes them incredible acoustic broadcasters, capable of projecting their calls over miles of dense jungle canopy, a necessity for social creatures that must stay in contact with their flock in a visual environment obscured by millions of leaves. While their calls cut through the humid air to maintain social bonds, the physical maintenance of a parrot's plumage requires an equally sophisticated biological strategy, one that diverges remarkably from the standard avian toolkit. In the vast majority of bird species, feather health is maintained by a uropagile gland located near the base of the tail, which secretes a waxy oil that the bird spreads over its body to waterproof and condition its feathers. However, several distinct lineages of parrots, most notably the cockatoos, African greys, and certain macaws, have abandoned this reliance on oil in favor of a dry, dusty solution known as powder down. These birds possess specialized feathers that are biologically programmed to never stop growing, yet they are also designed to disintegrate at the tips. As the bird preens, these feathers crumble into a fine, talcum-like keratin powder that coats their entire body. This dust is incredibly effective at waterproofing and cleaning, acting as a dry lubricant that repels moisture and dirt. But it also creates a distinct cloud around the bird, a feature well known to anyone who has kept a cockatoo in a small room. This dusty existence, combined with the debris of a forest canopy, necessitates exceptional protection for their most vital sensory organs, specifically the eyes. To navigate a world filled with pollen, dust, and whipping leaves, at high speeds, parrots possess a high-performance anatomical shield known as the nictitating membrane. This is a third eyelid, a translucent inner curtain that can sweep horizontally across the eye even while the main eyelids remain open. It functions like a built-in pair of safety goggles or a windshield wiper, allowing the parrot to clear away debris and lubricate the cornea without ever losing sight of a predator or a landing branch. This visual system is not only protected by advanced biological engineering, but also operates at a processing speed that far outstrips human perception. The speed at which an eye can process images is known as the critical flicker fusion frequency. For humans, this threshold is relatively low. If a light flashes roughly 60 times per second, we perceive it as a steady, continuous beam, which is why we view television screens and light bulbs as constant sources of illumination. Parrots, however, possess a much higher flicker fusion rate, meaning their brains can distinguish individual flashes of light at speeds well over 100 cycles per second. The consequence of this heightened perception is that many artificial environments created by humans are unintentionally stressful for them. To a parrot, A standard fluorescent tube light in a kitchen or a pet store does not emit a steady glow. Instead, it appears to be strobing violently, creating a disorienting and chaotic visual environment similar to a strobe light in a nightclub. This high-speed processing is essential for a bird that must calculate complex flight trajectories through shifting foliage, but it highlights the profound sensory gap between a parrot owner and their companion. Supporting these heightened senses is a respiratory and metabolic engine that is fundamentally different from the mammalian model. When a human breathes, a large muscle called the diaphragm contracts, creating a vacuum that pulls air into the lungs. Parrots, like all birds, completely lack a diaphragm. Instead, their entire respiratory system relies on the active movement of their skeleton. They must physically expand and contract their rib cage and sternum to pump air through their bodies. This physiological reality makes them incredibly vulnerable to improper handling. If a person holds a parrot too tightly around the chest, they are not merely restraining it, but actively preventing it from breathing, which can lead to rapid suffocation. This bellows-like breathing system drives a metabolism that runs at a blistering pace. The average body temperature of a parrot hovers between 104 and 106 degrees Fahrenheit, a feverish heat by human standards that indicates the immense energy required to sustain active flight and complex cognition. To fuel this high-temperature engine, their digestive system is optimized for rapid and efficient processing, split into two distinct chambers that perform separate functions. The first chamber is the proventriculus, a glandular stomach where digestive enzymes and acids are secreted to begin the chemical breakdown of food. The food then passes into the second chamber, the ventriculus, commonly known as the gizzard. Since parrots have no teeth to chew their food, this muscular organ acts as a biological millstone. It contracts with powerful rhythm to grind seeds, nuts, and vegetation, often utilizing small stones or grit that the bird has swallowed to pulverize the toughest materials. Once the nutrients are extracted, the waste is handled with an efficiency designed to minimize weight, the eternal enemy of flight. Unlike mammals, parrots do not possess a bladder and cannot store urine. Carrying a reservoir of liquid waste would be an unnecessary burden for a flying creature, so their kidneys filter waste into a concentrated, semi-solid uric acid, the white portion of bird droppings, which is expelled almost immediately through the cloaca. This rapid transit system ensures that the bird remains as light as possible at all times, ready to take wing at a moment's notice. Yet, despite these adaptations for physical lightness, there is one area where parrots carry a surprisingly heavy load: the brain. The ratio of brain size to body weight in parrots is comparable to that of higher primates, placing them among the most encephalized creatures on the planet. This similarity is not merely superficial. The internal architecture of their brains reveals a density of neurons that rivals that of monkeys and apes. In the forebrain, the region associated with complex cognition, tool use, and social intelligence, parrots pack neurons into the tissue with a density that far exceeds that of mammals. This allows them to fit a massive amount of computing power into a relatively small skull, essentially acting as a miniaturized supercomputer. This neurological density explains their ability to solve puzzles, understand abstract concepts, and navigate complex social hierarchies. Within these hierarchies, individual identity is paramount, and evolution has provided the macaws, specifically, with a unique method of facial recognition. The bare white patches of skin on a macaw's face are not empty space. They are patterned with tiny lines of black feathers. These feather patterns are completely unique to each individual bird, functioning exactly like a human fingerprint. No two macaws have the same facial pattern, allowing flock members and observant researchers to distinguish one individual from another visually, a trait that underscores the deep importance of individuality and recognition in their sophisticated societies. This deep-seated individuality extends beyond the unique patterns on a macaw's face and permeates the very way they interact with the physical world, manifesting in a trait that was once thought to be exclusively human: lateralization, or handedness. Just as the vast majority of humans are right-handed, showing a clear neurological preference for one side of the body, research indicates that parrots possess a strong dominance for one foot over the other. However, unlike humans, the parrot population is predominantly left-handed, or rather, left-footed. Studies observing Australian parrots and other species have shown that roughly 70 to 90% of individuals prefer to stand on their right leg while using their left foot to grasp, manipulate, and lift food to their beaks. This is not a random habit, but a reflection of brain organization, suggesting that the right hemisphere of the parrot brain, which controls the left side of the body, plays a dominant role in their daily processing of fine motor tasks. This preference is so ingrained that a parrot forced to use its non-dominant foot often appears clumsy and frustrated, much like a human trying to write with their offhand. While their feet reveal their motor preferences, their eyes serve as a dynamic billboard for their internal emotional state. Parrots possess voluntary control over the muscles in their iris, allowing them to rapidly constrict and dilate their pupils, regardless of the lighting conditions. This behavior, known among ornithologists and owners as pinning or flashing, is a high-speed signaling system. When a parrot is excited, angry, or intensely interested in a new object, its pupils will rapidly shrink to tiny pinpoints and then expand again in a rhythmic, pulsing motion. This is the avian equivalent of a human blush or a raised eyebrow, providing a clear visual warning or invitation that acts as a primary method of nonverbal communication. When the excitement fades and the bird settles down for the night, this intensity is replaced by a sound that is paradoxically comforting, As a parrot drifts into sleep, it will often engage in beak grinding, a behavior where the lower mandible is slid against the upper mandible in a rhythmic, rasping motion. To the uninitiated, this sound can resemble the harsh noise of stones grinding together, but in the language of parrot behavior, it is the ultimate sign of contentment. It indicates that the bird feels completely safe, its crop is full, and it is relaxing its jaw muscles in preparation for deep sleep, signaling to the rest of the flock that all is well in the territory. This profound capacity for social signaling bridges the gap between avian and human psychology in ways that are startlingly relatable. Parrots are among the very few animal groups known to experience contagious yawning. For years, this phenomenon was observed primarily in humans, chimpanzees, and dogs, and was widely linked to the capacity for empathy, the ability to unconsciously mimic and understand the state of another being. The fact that a parrot can catch a yawn from a human suggests a level of social attunement that goes beyond simple conditioning, hinting at a deep neurological capacity to resonate with the physiological states of others. This social complexity begins in the nest, where communication is far more structured than a simple chorus of instinctual cries. In the wild, parrot parents, particularly in species like the green-rumped parrotlet, bestow what can essentially be described as names upon their offspring. Acoustical analysis reveals that parents use specific, unique signature calls to address individual chicks. The chick learns this sonic label and adopts it as its own identity, using it to announce its presence to the flock for the rest of its life. This discovery shattered the long-held assumption that animal names are a purely human invention, proving that wild parrots navigate a social web defined by individual appellations. These vocal identities are not static. They are woven into a larger cultural tapestry defined by regional dialects. Just as human communities in different cities develop distinct accents and vocabularies, parrot flocks in different geographical areas vocalize differently. A flock of yellow-naped Amazons in one valley will sound distinctly different from a flock of the same species living 50 miles away. These dialects are not genetic, they are learned. If a parrot is transplanted from one region to another, it will often modify its calls to match the local dialect of its new neighbors, a process of vocal convergence that helps the outsider integrate into the new social group. This ability to modify sound based on external input is the foundation of their ability to dance, a trait that is surprisingly rare in the animal kingdom. Parrots are the only animals, other than humans, that have been scientifically proven to possess the ability of rhythmic entrainment. This is the cognitive ability to synchronize body movements to an external musical beat spontaneously. When a famous sulfur-crested cockatoo named Snowball was played music with varying tempos, he adjusted his head, bobbing, and foot lifting to match the beat, speeding up and slowing down as the music changed. This suggests that the brain circuitry required for vocal learning, the connection between the auditory cortex and the motor cortex is also the neurological key that unlocks the ability to feel and move to rhythm. This sophistication extends from the musical to the mathematical and abstract. For decades, psychologists believed that the concept of object permanence, the understanding that an object continues to exist even when it is hidden from view, was a milestone that human infants only achieved after several months of development. Parrots, however, grasp this concept intuitively. If you show a parrot a nut and then hide it under a cup, the bird knows the nut is still there and will work to retrieve it, demonstrating a mental model of the world that includes hidden information. But the intellect of the parrot goes far beyond simple hide and seek. In the realm of cognitive science, the most famous example of avian intelligence was Alex, an African gray parrot trained by Dr. Irene Pepperberg. Alex did not just mimic words. He understood categories of shape, color, and matter. Perhaps his most staggering achievement was demonstrating an understanding of the concept of zero. When asked to identify the difference between two identical objects, Alex would respond with the word none. He was the first non-human animal to spontaneously use a label to describe the absence of a quality, a level of abstract thought that requires the brain to process a null set, a mathematical concept that human civilizations took centuries to formalize. This intellectual firepower is matched by a mechanical aptitude that can turn the bird into a master engineer or a prison escape artist. The Goffin's cockatoo, a small white parrot from Indonesia, has proven to be an expert lockpicker. In controlled experiments, these birds were presented with a box secured by a complex series of different locking mechanisms: a pin, a screw, a bolt, and a latch that had to be removed in a specific order to access a nut. Without any prior training, the cockatoos examined the device and systematically dismantled it, figuring out that the pin blocked the bolt and the bolt blocked the latch. They essentially reverse engineered the problem. Furthermore, they have been observed creating their own tool sets. If a nut is out of reach behind a barrier, a Goffin's cockatoo will bite a piece of wood into a splinter to poke it, and if that fails, it will craft a different tool, perhaps a hook, to drag it closer. They can distinguish between the functional properties of materials, choosing a stiff stick for prying and a flexible one for whipping, proving that they are not just biological machines reacting to instinct, but thinking architects of their own environment. Yet, this mechanical genius and ability to manipulate the physical environment is not merely a tool for solitary survival or selfish gain. It is the foundation for a complex moral landscape that was once believed to be the exclusive domain of human ethics. High intelligence inevitably leads to complex social contracts, and in the world of the African gray parrot, this manifests as genuine biological altruism. In groundbreaking controlled studies, researchers separated two African grays, with a clear partition, and gave one bird a surplus of metal tokens that could be exchanged through a slot for a walnut, while the other bird was left with nothing but an empty bowl, without any promise of a reward for itself, and often without any prompting. The fortunate parrot would frequently pass its valuable tokens through a hole to its destitute neighbor, understanding that the other bird was hungry and needed the currency to eat. This deliberate transfer of wealth disrupts the traditional biological view of survival of the fittest, suggesting a mind capable of empathy and a desire to ensure the well-being of the flock over immediate personal hoarding. This generosity is mirrored in their most intimate acts of affection, though these behaviors are often deeply misunderstood and even pathologized by human observers who are unfamiliar with avian body language. To a human, the act of vomiting is a sign of illness, toxicity, or disgust. But to a parrot, regurgitation is the ultimate gesture of love. When a parrot bobs its head rhythmically and brings up softened, semi-digested food from its crop to feed a human or another bird, it is overriding its most basic survival instinct to keep calories for itself. It is a courtship display that says, quite literally, "I will sustain you with my own energy." This behavior has its roots in the nursery, where helpless chicks trigger the feeding reflex in their parents by pumping their heads up and down and making static, like begging sounds. As the bird matures, this head-bobbing motion evolves from a childhood plea for food into a sophisticated, communicative gesture. In adult parrots, a rhythmic head bob can be a playful invitation, a demand for attention, or a prelude to mating, retaining the juvenile motion, but layering it with adult nuance. It serves as a visual metronome for social interaction, signaling excitement and engagement. This investment in others forms the bedrock of their reproductive strategy, which relies on long-term social monogamy. While many animals mate and part ways immediately, or stay together only for a single season, most parrot species form pair bonds that are remarkably similar to human marriage. These couples essentially live as a single functional unit, flying wingtip to wingtip, sharing food, and defending nesting sites together year after year for decades. The biological driver for this is the immense difficulty of raising parrot chicks. They are born blind, naked, and helpless, requiring months of constant care that a single parent simply could not provide without starving. However, just like in human relationships, these bonds are subject to the complexities of individual compatibility and reproductive success. Genetic testing in wild populations has revealed that divorce does occur, although it is rare. If a pair consistently fails to raise successful clutches of eggs due to genetic incompatibility or poor coordination, they may separate and seek new partners in an attempt to improve their lineage. The depth of these bonds means that the severing of them, whether through separation or death, can be catastrophic. Parrots are among the few animals that exhibit a grief response so profound it mirrors clinical depression in humans. A parrot that has lost a mate or a beloved owner may stop eating, sit motionless on its perch for days, and engage in self-destructive behaviors like plucking out its own feathers, leaving itself bald and vulnerable. This is not merely a behavioral change, but a physiological one. Their bodies are flooded with stress hormones like corticosterone. Veterinarians treating these bereaved birds often have to prescribe mood-stabilizing drugs similar to human antidepressants to help them cope with the trauma of loss, a haunting testament to their emotional capacity. But before they reach the emotional maturity required for these deep bonds, every young parrot must navigate a tumultuous adolescence known among owners and breeders as the bluffing stage. Just as human teenagers test boundaries and rebel against authority, young parrots go through a developmental phase where they become unpredictable, nippy, and hormonally charged. During this period, a previously sweet and cuddly bird may lunge, bite, and scream without warning. This is not born out of true aggression or malice, but is a necessary social experiment. The young bird is testing its dominance, learning the limits of its power, and figuring out the social hierarchy of the flock. They are essentially learning how to be an adult parrot by pretending to be a dangerous one, bluffing their way into social standing. This bravado often masks a deep-seated vulnerability that persists even into adulthood, particularly when the sun goes down. In the wild, a sleeping parrot is a defenseless snack for a snake, an owl, or a climbing carnivore. And this evolutionary fear is so hardwired that it can manifest in captivity as night frights. Species like cockatiels are particularly prone to these panic attacks. If a sudden noise, a flash of light, or a shifting shadow startles them in the pitch black, they will explode into a chaotic frenzy, thrashing blindly against the bars of their cage. Because they cannot see, they often injure themselves severely, breaking blood feathers, newly growing feathers that are still filled with a blood supply, or suffering concussions. This terror of the dark stands in stark contrast to the gentle intimacy of their morning routines, which are defined by allopreening. This mutual grooming is the glue that holds the flock together. A parrot cannot reach the feathers on its own head to uncase new growth or remove dirt, so it relies entirely on its mate or flock members to perform this delicate maintenance. They will spend hours gently nibbling the keratin sheaths off each other's pin feathers, a tactile language of care that lowers their heart rates and triggers the release of oxytocin. It is a moment of absolute trust, where one bird lowers its head and exposes its neck, its most vulnerable point, to the beak of another. This quiet, tactile intimacy is bracketed by the raucous bookends of the day known as the jungle hour. At sunrise and again at sunset, wild flocks engage in a collective screaming session that can be deafening to the human ear. This is not chaos. It is a coordinated social event. The screaming serves a vital function. It is a roll call to ensure every member is present after the night or before settling down, and a sonic fence that marks their territory against rival flocks. It allows the birds to burn off excess energy and reaffirm their presence in the canopy. Yet, survival and territory are not their only motivations for activity. Parrots are distinct in the animal kingdom because they engage in play that serves no immediate biological purpose other than fun. This is a trait usually reserved for mammals with high cognitive function, like dolphins and primates. The kea, a mountain parrot from New Zealand, is the master of this. They have been filmed sliding down snowy roofs on their backs, tumbling over each other, and playing catch with snowballs. They will repeatedly carry a can to a roof just to roll it down and watch it clatter, expending precious calories that should theoretically be saved for survival. The fact that they play simply because the act brings them joy is arguably the ultimate sign of a conscious feeling mind, demonstrating that their lives are not just about enduring the elements, but about experiencing the thrill of existence. This playful investigation of the world, however, has a darker evolutionary flip side, particularly in the harsh, resource-poor environments where the kea evolved. While their sliding on snowy roofs is charming to an observer, the kea's intelligence is fundamentally rooted in a ruthless drive to find calories in the alpine freeze, a drive that has turned this parrot into the only true carnivore of its order. Historically, this adaptability led to a gruesome conflict with European settlers in the high country of the South Island. Farmers began to notice that their sheep were suffering from strange, open wounds on their backs, often succumbing to infection or blood loss. It was discovered that the kea had learned to land on the backs of live sheep, using their razor-sharp, curved beaks to shear through the wool and flesh to feast on the nutrient-rich kidney fat surrounding the animal's spine. This behavior, born from a desperate need for high-energy food in a landscape buried by snow, led to the bird being declared a pest and hunted with a bounty on its beak for much of the 20th century. Today, while they are protected, their investigative beak is more likely to be turned against tourists than livestock. The kea has earned a reputation as a notorious vandal of the automotive world. They are fascinated by the soft, pliable texture of rubber and will methodically dismantle a parked car in minutes, stripping away windshield wipers, ripping out the rubber seals around doors and windows, and even tearing soft top roofs to shreds, leaving the vehicle exposed to the elements while they chortle from a nearby rock. Descending from the alpine heights of the kea's domain into the mossy, ancient forests of New Zealand reveals an even stranger relative, a bird that seems to have forgotten it is a parrot at all. The kakapo is an evolutionary anomaly, the result of millions of years of isolation on an island with no native land mammals. With no predators to flee from, the kakapo abandoned the sky entirely, becoming the only parrot species in existence that is completely flightless. Over millennia, its wings have withered into short, vestigial limbs that serve only for balance as it lumbers across the forest floor. In the absence of the metabolic demands of flight, the kakapo has grown to massive proportions, claiming the title of the heaviest parrot on Earth. A mature male can weigh up to 4 kilograms, nearly 9 pounds, accumulating a layer of body fat that would make flight impossible even if it had the wingspan for it. This heaviness gives it a waddling, jogging gait more reminiscent of a badger or a rabbit than a bird. Its behavior is equally un-parrot-like. It is the only strictly nocturnal parrot, emerging only under the cover of darkness to forage for rimu fruit and roots. Because of its facial disc of feathers, which funnels sound to its ears, much like an owl's face, early European explorers dubbed it the owl parrot. This creature of the night navigates its dark world not just by sight and sound, but by scent, possessing a strong, distinctive odor that is unique in the avian world. While most birds have a neutral or dusty smell, the kakapo exudes a powerful, sweet fragrance that has been described by biologists as smelling like warm honey, freesia flowers, or the inside of an old violin case. This scent is likely a social pheromone used to signal presence to other kakapo in the dense undergrowth. But tragically, it also acted as an olfactory beacon for the invasive predators introduced by humans, such as stoats and feral cats, which nearly sniffed the species into extinction. While the kakapo represents the extreme of heaviness and earthbound life, the tropical wetlands of South America are home to the ultimate expression of aerial grandeur, the hyacinth macaw. This bird is the antithesis of the cryptic, ground-dwelling kakapo. It is the largest flying parrot species in the world, not by weight, but by length and wingspan. From the tip of its beak to the end of its long, trailing tail feathers, a hyacinth macaw can measure over 1 meter, more than 3 feet, in length. Its plumage is a stunning, uniform cobalt blue, so deep it appears purple in certain lights, accented only by bright yellow skin around its eyes and the base of its beak. This beak is a terrifyingly powerful instrument, evolved specifically to crack the rock-hard nuts of the auri and bocayuva palms. The structural integrity of these nuts is comparable to solid stone, yet the hyacinth macaw can shear them open with ease, applying pressure that would crush a human hand. Its sheer size allows it to dominate the canopy, flying with slow, rhythmic wing beats that display its massive wingspan, a stark reminder of the diversity within this family of birds. From the flightless giant of the fern forests to the cobalt titan of the Amazon. Yet, nature's experiments with the parrot form do not end with giants. They also extend to the microscopic. Hidden within the humid rainforests of New Guinea and the Solomon Islands lives the buff-faced pygmy parrot, a creature so diminutive it defies the popular image of a parrot entirely. It holds the record as the smallest parrot species in existence, with a total body length of just over 8 centimeters, smaller than a human thumb. These birds are so tiny that they are often mistaken for insects as they dart through the trees. Their size is not their only bizarre attribute. Their diet is equally alien. While their larger cousins crack nuts or slice fruit, the pygmy parrot is a specialized fungivore. It is the only bird known to graze primarily on fungi and slime molds found on the bark of trees. They scurry up and down tree trunks like nuthatches, using their tiny, curved beaks to scrape off lichen and gelatinous slime, occupying an ecological niche that is usually reserved for slugs or beetles rather than vertebrates. This immense variation in size and diet is matched only by the variation in their courtship and communication. While many parrots scream or sing to attract a mate, one species in Australia has reinvented itself as a percussionist. The palm cockatoo, a large, smoky gray bird with a prominent crest and a massive, sharp beak, is the only animal, apart from humans, that utilizes a tool to create music. The male palm cockatoo does not simply bang on a tree in a fit of aggression. He engages in a deliberate, rhythmic performance. He will meticulously select a live branch, trim it down to a specific size to create a drumstick, and then fly to a hollow tree that possesses good acoustic resonance. Grasping the stick in his foot, he strikes the hollow wood with a steady, rhythmic beat, creating a loud drumming sound that can be heard for over 100 yards through the forest. This is not a random clatter. Analysis of the drumming shows that each male has his own unique style and rhythm, maintaining a consistent beat that does not falter. He is performing a solo concert for the female watching nearby, combining the visual display of his blushing red cheek patches with a manufactured beat, proving that the parrot's mastery of sound extends beyond the vocal syrinx and into the realm of instrumental music. While the palm cockatoo relies on a manufactured auditory performance to bridge the gap between the sexes, another species has taken the concept of visual differentiation to such an extreme that it baffled the scientific community for decades. In the world of ornithology, sexual dimorphism, where males and females look different, is usually a subtle affair involving size or minor variations in plumage brightness. However, the Eclectus parrot of the Solomon Islands and New Guinea presents a case of biological coding so radical that early European naturalists believed they were looking at two completely different species. The male Eclectus is a brilliant, neon emerald green with a beak the color of candy corn, designed to blend perfectly into the sunlit canopy where he forages. The female, in stark contrast, is a deep, rich crimson red with royal blue underbellies and a black beak. She spends much of her time deep within the shadows of nesting hollows, where her red plumage allows her to blend into the darkness while simultaneously signaling her presence to mates against the green entrance of the hole. For nearly a century, museums and collectors catalogued them as separate birds, unaware that they were observing a single genetically unified family, divided by a color code as distinct as day and night. This reliance on tree hollows for nesting, which drives the eclectic's camouflage strategies, is a universal trait among parrots. Almost all of them are cavity nesters, relying on pre-existing holes in ancient trees. Yet, there is one rebellious architect that has defied this ancestral instinct to become a master builder. The monk parakeet, also known as the Quaker parrot, is the only member of the parrot family that constructs its own nest entirely from sticks and twigs. While other parrots search for a rotting tree, the monk parakeet actively gathers building materials to construct massive, free-standing structures in the tops of trees or on man-made utility poles. These are not simple cup nests like those of a robin. They are complex, apartment-style, communal dwellings that can house multiple families and generations simultaneously. Weaving thorny twigs together to create a fortress that is impenetrable to predators, these nests can grow to the size of a compact car and weigh hundreds of pounds. Inside, the structure is divided into separate chambers, a foyer for guarding the entrance, and a deeper, insulated nursery for the chicks. This communal living arrangement provides warmth during cold winters and collective security, allowing the monk parakeet to thrive in climates that would freeze other tropical birds, a testament to the power of avian engineering. This drive to build requires the transport of materials, a task usually performed by the beak. However, a small African parrot known as the peach-faced lovebird has evolved a unique, almost comical method of freight transport that keeps its beak free for climbing. When a female lovebird finds a suitable strip of bark, leaf, or, in captivity, a strip of paper, she does not fly away with it in her mouth. Instead, she methodically tucks the material into the feathers of her rump and lower back. She will load dozens of strips into her plumage until she looks like a prickly, colorful porcupine, and then fly back to the nest with her cargo secured. This behavior is genetically hardwired. Even lovebirds raised in isolation will attempt to tuck strips of paper into their tail feathers, demonstrating that the instinct to carry tools is written into their very DNA. While the lovebird constructs its home from vegetation, and the monk parakeet builds a fortress in the sky, the Patagonian conure, also known as the burrowing parrot, looks to the earth itself for shelter. In the arid, wind-swept cliffs of Argentina and Chile, these birds have abandoned the trees to become the troglodytes of the parrot world. Using their powerful beaks and feet, they dig deep, winding tunnels into vertical limestone or sandstone cliffs. These burrows can extend nearly 3 meters, close to 10 feet, into the rock face, creating a safe, temperature-controlled environment that protects them from the scorching sun and freezing desert nights. These colonies can be massive, with thousands of burrows riddling the side of a canyon, turning the cliff face into a bustling, noisy city of birds. This adaptation to a harsh, treeless environment highlights the parrot's ability to exploit almost any geological niche. A similar level of extreme specialization is found in the diet of the lorikeets of Australia and the Pacific. While most parrots have thick, fleshy tongues designed for manipulating nuts, lorikeets have evolved to exploit the energy-rich world of flowers. Their tongues are equipped with specialized clusters of tiny, hair-like papilla at the tip. When the bird extends its tongue, these papillae stand up, creating a brush-like structure that functions like a sponge. This allows the lorikeet to lap up nectar and pollen from blossoms with incredible efficiency. This high-sugar diet fuels a hyperactive metabolism, giving lorikeets a frenetic energy that sees them darting through the canopy like multicolored missiles, serving as crucial pollinators for the forests they inhabit. This anatomical diversity extends even to the way parrots sleep. In the forests of Southeast Asia, the genus Loriculus, commonly known as hanging parrots, has evolved a roosting behavior that is unique in the bird world and more reminiscent of a bat. When it is time to sleep, these small green birds fly to a branch, invert themselves, and hang completely upside down. This is not a balancing act, but a physiological lock. Their feet possess a ratchet-like tendon mechanism that locks their toes around the branch when their legs are straightened, allowing them to hang without expending any muscle energy. Sleeping upside down may offer protection from predators that prowl the tops of branches, or it may simply be a way to mimic a hanging leaf, blending perfectly into the foliage. While the hanging parrot hides its presence, the Vasa parrot of Madagascar broadcasts its reproductive status with a physical transformation that is bizarre by avian standards. During the breeding season, the female Vasa parrot undergoes a hormonal surge that causes the feathers on her head to fall out, leaving her completely bald. As if this were not enough, the exposed skin on her head turns a bright, sickly yellow. To a human eye, she looks diseased. But to a male Vasa parrot, this bald, yellow head is a signal of dominance and peak fertility. The males approach these terrifying-looking females with submissive squeaking sounds, acknowledging the matriarchal power dynamic that defines their species. This wide variance in vocal behavior, from the submissive squeaks of the Vasa to the ear-splitting screams of the macaw, finds its most melodic expression in the Amazon parrots. Among all the hookbills, the Amazons, particularly the yellow-naped and blue-fronted species, are widely regarded as the supreme vocalists. This is not merely due to their ability to mimic words, but their ability to replicate the tonal quality of the human voice. An African gray might speak with the robotic precision of a recording, but an Amazon can sing. They are capable of modulating their syrinx to produce pitch-perfect operatic vibrato, capturing the emotional resonance and musicality of a song. It is not uncommon for an Amazon to learn an entire verse of a song and belt it out with the gusto of a professional tenor, complete with pauses for breath and changes in volume. Yet, not all parrots express themselves through song. Some prefer physical comedy. The caiques, native to the Amazon basin, are colloquially known as the clowns of the bird world because of a unique form of locomotion. While most birds walk one foot after the other or fly, caiques prefer to hop. They will bounce along a branch or a floor on 2 feet, like a kangaroo or a rabbit, often coordinating their hops with a playful, rhythmic energy. This behavior seems to be an expression of pure excitement, often performed when the bird is happy or playing, further endearing them to humans who see a reflection of their own desire for frivolous fun in the bird's antics. However, the story of parrots is not always one of joy and adaptation. It is also a map of loss. North of the Mexican border, the pine forests of Arizona were once the seasonal home of a spectacular creature known as the thick-billed parrot. This bird, robust and loud, is the only living parrot species that was native to the continental United States, aside from the now extinct Carolina parakeet. Unlike the tropical stereotypies of its cousins, the thick-billed parrot is built for the cold, adapted to survive in the high-elevation pine oak woodlands where snow is common. They are specialized pine cone eaters, using their formidable beaks to shear through tough cones to extract the seeds. Tragically, due to excessive logging and hunting in the early 20th century, the thick-billed parrot has been extirpated from the United States. Today, it survives only in the fragmented forests of the Sierra Madre Occidental in Mexico. Despite efforts to reintroduce them to the Sky Islands of Arizona, the flocks have struggled to establish a foothold, leaving the American pine forests silent of their raucous calls, a reminder that even the most adaptable biological machines are not immune to the rapid changes imposed by human expansion. The silence of the American pine forests is a relatively recent tragedy in the grand, sweeping narrative of the parrot. A story that stretches back through deep geological time to an era when the world looked fundamentally different. To find the true genesis of the Psittaciformes, one must look past the era of human expansion and return to the shadow of the great extinction event that wiped the non-avian dinosaurs from the face of the earth. While the Tyrannosaurus and the Triceratops vanished 66 million years ago, the avian survivors in the southern hemisphere began a rapid period of diversification. Fossil evidence and molecular dating suggest that the first true ancestors of modern parrots evolved approximately 59 million years ago during the Paleocene epoch. This was a world recovering from apocalypse, where tropical forests were beginning to reclaim the planet. These early parrots did not originate in the fragmented continents we know today, but on the massive supercontinent of Gondwana. This colossal landmass once combined South America, Africa, Antarctica, Australia, and the Indian subcontinent into a single, contiguous block of land. As plate tectonics inexorably tore Gondwana apart, the parrot populations were physically rafted away on these drifting continental arcs. This ancient geological divorce explains the current global distribution of the order, clarifying why the two great centers of parrot biodiversity today are located in South America and Australia. Land masses that were once united before the slow drift of millions of years separated them by vast oceans. It would take tens of millions of years before a primate would evolve to pay attention to these birds. But once humanity made contact, the parrot became a central figure in the expansion of empires. The introduction of the parrot to the Western world is inextricably linked to one of history's greatest conquerors, Alexander the Great. In the 4th century, before Common Era, as Alexander marched his Macedonian armies deep into the Punjab region of India, he encountered a bird unlike anything in Greece, a sleek, green creature with a rose-colored ring around its neck and the uncanny ability to speak. These birds, now known as rose-ringed parakeets, or more appropriately, Alexandrine parakeets, were captured and brought back to the Mediterranean as living trophies of his eastern conquests. They became a sensation among the Greek elite, valued not just for their beauty, but for their ability to mimic the human voice, which was often interpreted as a sign of divine intelligence. This fascination was inherited by the Romans, who integrated the parrot into their society with a duality that reflected the excesses of their empire. On one hand, parrots were cherished pets housed in cages made of silver and ivory, taught to salute the emperor and recite poetry. On the other hand, the decadence of the Roman palate transformed the bird from a companion into a victim. In the kitchens of the wealthy, parrots were slaughtered by the hundreds, not for their meat, but solely for their tongues. Roman gourmands believed the parrot tongue to be a supreme delicacy, a textured luxury that symbolized man's dominance over nature's most vocal creature. The fall of Rome did not extinguish Europe's fascination with these exotic birds. Instead, they found sanctuary in the highest corridors of religious and royal power. By the 15th century, the parrot had become a symbol of such prestige that the Vatican itself formalized their care. Under the papacy of Pope Martin V, the Holy See employed a dedicated official known as the Keeper of the Parrots, a role responsible for the health and maintenance of the Pope's exotic menagerie. This specific appointment highlights how the parrot was viewed not merely as a pet, but as a jewel of the court requiring specialized professional administration. This royal favor extended across the English Channel to the Tudor dynasty. King Henry VIII, a monarch infamous for his volatility and the execution of his wives, possessed a softer side when it came to his African gray parrot. This bird lived at Hampton Court Palace and was reportedly one of the few living things the king treated with consistent affection. Legends from the court suggest that the bird would call out for the boatmen across the River Thames, mimicking the king's voice so perfectly that the ferryman would row across the water, only to find a laughing bird and an empty dock. This anecdote, whether entirely factual or embellished by courtiers, underscores the African grey's historical reputation as the master of mimicry, a trait that would endure in British culture for centuries. However, the cultural image of the parrot would eventually shift from the palaces of kings to the salt-stained shoulders of outlaws, driven not by history, but by fiction. The ubiquitous trope of the pirate with a parrot, an image now plastered on everything from cereal boxes to sports team logos, was not a documented reality of the golden age of piracy. While sailors certainly brought exotic birds home as souvenirs to sell in the markets of London or Amsterdam, the specific archetype of the pirate captain with a bird on his shoulder is almost entirely the invention of Robert Louis Stevenson. In his 1883 novel Treasure Island, Stevenson created the character of Long John Silver, a one-legged cook who carried a parrot named Captain Flint. This fictional bird, which would scream "pieces of 8" at pivotal moments, captured the public imagination so completely that it overwrote historical reality. It transformed the parrot from a symbol of royal luxury into a symbol of rebellion, adventure, and the lawless high seas, cementing a connection that has no basis in the actual logs of pirate vessels. This rebellious spirit, fabricated by literature, found a real-life counterpart in the American political sphere, specifically within the household of the 7th President of the United States, Andrew Jackson. Jackson was a man known for his fiery temper and rough frontiersman demeanor, traits that he apparently passed on to his pet African grey, named Pole. The bond between the man and the bird was strong, but the parrot's education was perhaps too thorough. Upon Jackson's death in 1845, a grand funeral was held at the Hermitage in Tennessee. Mourners, dignitaries, and family members gathered in solemn silence to pay their respects to the former commander-in-chief. However, as the service began, the solemnity was shattered by a barrage of profane cursing echoing from the parrot's cage. Pole, agitated by the crowd and missing his owner, began to scream a stream of expletives that he had learned from listening to Jackson's private tirades. The profanity was so loud, so distinct, and so relentless that the bird had to be physically removed from the funeral so the service could continue. This incident stands as one of the most bizarre moments in presidential history, a testament to the parrot's ability to act as a living, breathing tape recorder of its owner's most unguarded moments. The White House would host many other parrots, but few were as beloved as those belonging to Theodore Roosevelt, a dedicated naturalist who revolutionized American conservation. Roosevelt understood the biological value of these birds, yet he also enjoyed them as family members. He kept a hyacinth macaw named Eli Yale, a nod to the university, and a blue-fronted Amazon named Loretta. These birds were not kept in cages, but were often allowed to roam the family residence, interacting with the Roosevelt children and visiting dignitaries. Roosevelt's approach to his pets bridged the gap between the Victorian collector and the modern ethologist. He observed their behaviors with scientific curiosity, while doting on them with the affection of a father. This tradition of high-profile parrot ownership created a fertile ground for myths, the most persistent of which involves Britain's wartime Prime Minister, Winston Churchill. A popular urban legend claims that Churchill owned a macaw named Charlie, who is still alive today, well over 100 years old, and who spends her days cursing the Nazis and Adolf Hitler with the voice of the late Prime Minister. It is a compelling story that fits the bulldog spirit of Churchill perfectly. However, historical scrutiny by Churchill's own daughter and estate archives has largely debunked this. While Churchill was an animal lover who kept budgerigars and other birds, the cursing anti-fascist macaw appears to be a fabrication of the bird's later owner, a pet shop proprietor seeking publicity. The story's persistence, despite the lack of evidence, reveals how deeply humans desire to project their own history and personality onto these birds, treating them as feathered vessels for our own legends and legacies. While Churchill's macaw may be a phantom of modern folklore, the spiritual connection between humans and parrots is anchored in archaeological realities that predate Western civilization by thousands of years. In the arid coastal valleys of northern Peru, the Moche civilization, which flourished from the 1st to the 8th century, elevated the parrot from a creature of the forest to a divine messenger. Moche artisans, known for their incredible skill in ceramics and metallurgy, created thousands of stirrup spout vessels and gold ornaments depicting parrots with lifelike accuracy. These were not mere decorations. They were religious icons. The Moche viewed the parrot, particularly the macaw, as a conduit between the earthly realm and the gods, likely because of the bird's ability to bridge the gap between the ground and the sky. This reverence is etched into the very skin of the earth in the Nazca Desert, south of the Moche territory. Among the famous Nazca lines, massive geoglyphs created between 500 before Common Era and 500 Common Era, lies a gigantic stylized figure of a parrot. Stretching over 200 meters, roughly 650 feet, this geoglyph is visible only from the air, a massive prayer carved into the desert floor that suggests these birds were seen as guardians or symbols of fertility and rain in one of the driest places on Earth. This association of parrots with the divine is not limited to the Andes. Halfway across the world, in the pantheon of Hindu mythology, the parrot plays a central role as the vahana, or vehicle, of Kama, the god of love and desire. In traditional iconography, Kama is depicted riding a green parrot, a choice that is deeply symbolic. The parrot's ability to speak was seen as a sign of wisdom and seduction, while its green plumage represented the fertility of the earth during spring. In this context, the parrot is not just a pet, but a steed of the gods, carrying the force of desire across the cosmos. Similarly, in the ancient Mayan cosmology of Central America, the scarlet macaw was revered as an incarnation of the sun itself. The brilliant red plumage of the macaw was equated with the fiery rays of the sun and the heat of fire. To the Maya, the macaw was Seven Macaw, or Vukub Kakwik, a deity who, in the Popol Vuh creation myth, arrogantly claimed to be the sun and the moon before being defeated by the hero twins. This myth highlights the duality of the parrot in human culture, a creature of spectacular beauty that is also prone to vanity and loudness, traits that the Maya observed and wove into their foundational stories. In Europe, the symbolism of the parrot took a radically different turn during the Middle Ages. Rather than representing fire or desire, the parrot was unexpectedly adopted by Christian art as a symbol of the Virgin Mary's purity. This association stemmed from a bizarre belief in medieval bestiaries that feathers were immune to rot, and that the parrot's Av-like call was a miraculous greeting to the Virgin. Consequently, in paintings like Madonna with the Canon van der Pijl by Jan van Eyck, the infant Jesus is often shown holding a green parrot. It serves as a theological emblem of the Immaculate Conception, a strange but fascinating example of how a tropical bird was recontextualized to fit the austere narrative of European Christianity. By the 19th century, however, the parrot had descended from the heavens and the altarpieces to become a fixture of the Victorian parlor, giving rise to one of the most enduring cliches in the English language: "Polly wants a cracker." This phrase is not just a cartoon trope. It has its roots in the booming pet trade of the 1800s. As parrots became more common in middle-class homes, owners needed a simple, dry food that would not spoil like fruit. Hardtack and dry crackers became a staple treat. The phrase likely gained traction through early advertising and vaudeville acts, reflecting the parrot's new status as a consumer commodity and a source of domestic entertainment rather than a divine messenger. This commodification had unforeseen ecological consequences that continue to ripple through our modern cities. Today, in metropolises far removed from the tropical rainforest, wild parrots have established thriving, permanent colonies. Walk through Hyde Park in London, Telegraph Hill in San Francisco, or the parks of Brussels, and you will hear the unmistakable screech of ring-necked parakeets, or conures. These are not migratory visitors. They are the descendants of escaped pets that have adapted to urban life. They survive by raiding bird feeders, nesting in insulated attic spaces or old trees, and utilizing the heat island effect of cities to endure the winter. These feral populations are a testament to the parrot's extreme adaptability, proving that a bird evolved for the jungles of India or South America can successfully colonize the concrete canyons of the Western world. This adaptability, however, cannot mask the tragedy of extinction that has befallen the order in its ancient strongholds. While Australia and South America remain the two primary centers of parrot biodiversity, housing the vast majority of living species, North America has lost its only native representative. The Carolina parakeet was once a common sight across the eastern United States, ranging from Florida to New York. It was a vibrant, social bird that flourished in old-growth forests. However, as settlers cleared the land for agriculture, the parakeet was viewed as a crop pest. Farmers shot them by the thousands. To make matters worse, their feathers became fashionable accessories for ladies' hats. The species' fatal flaw was its social nature. When one bird was shot, the rest of the flock would not flee, but would circle back to mourn and help the fallen member, allowing hunters to wipe out entire flocks in minutes. The last captive. Carolina parakeet, a male named Incas, died in the Cincinnati Zoo in 1918, in the same cage that had held the last passenger pigeon just 4 years earlier, closing the book on North America's only indigenous parrot. A similarly heartbreaking story unfolded in Brazil, centered on a bird that would later become a global icon through animation. The Spix's macaw, a delicate blue parrot native to the Caatinga dry forests, was declared extinct in the wild in the year 2000. Decades of trapping for the illegal wildlife trade and the destruction of its specialized habitat had reduced its population to 0. This bird served as the direct inspiration for the character Blue in the animated movie Rio, which brought global attention to its plight. Unlike the Carolina parakeet, however, the story of the Spix's macaw may have a second chapter. A rigorous international breeding program using the few remaining captive birds has managed to increase their numbers, and reintroduction efforts are currently underway to return this blue ghost to the Brazilian skies. It is a fragile beacon of hope, demonstrating that while humanity has the power to destroy entire species, we also possess the science and the will to pull them back from the brink of oblivion. Survival in the wild requires more than just avoiding human encroachment or predators. It requires navigating a complex chemical minefield, a reality that drives the parrot to engage in one of the most fascinating dietary behaviors in the animal kingdom. In the lush, green expanse of the Amazon basin, particularly along the riverbanks of Peru, massive flocks of macaws and parrots gather daily at exposed cliffs of clay known as colpas. To an observer, this looks like a chaotic social gathering, a kaleidoscope of red, blue, and green feathers swirling against the earth. However, this is not a social club. It is a pharmacy. The plants of the rainforest are locked in an evolutionary arms race with the animals that eat them, often defending their seeds with toxic chemical compounds like tannins and alkaloids to prevent consumption. Parrots, who often consume these seeds before they are fully ripe, ingest high levels of these plant toxins. To counteract this, they engage in geophagy, the intentional eating of earth. The specific clay found at these licks possesses a high cation exchange capacity, meaning it chemically binds to the positively charged toxins in the bird's stomach, neutralizing them and allowing them to pass safely through the digestive system. This ancient medicinal ritual allows the parrot to exploit food sources that would be fatal to other animals, turning the toxic canopy into an exclusive buffet. However, while their biology has evolved over millions of years to neutralize complex rainforest alkaloids, it is utterly defenseless against the chemical compounds found in the modern human home. The most notorious of these domestic assassins is a treat that humans associate with joy: chocolate. The cacao bean contains a compound called theobromine, a bitter alkaloid that humans metabolize quickly and easily. Parrots, however, process theobromine at a glacial pace. If a parrot consumes even a small amount of dark chocolate, the compound accumulates in their system, leading to hyperactive behavior, seizures, and eventually cardiac arrest. It is a poison as potent to them as cyanide is to us. Similarly, the avocado, a staple of the healthy human diet, is a lethal fruit for a parrot. The pit, skin, and even the flesh of the avocado contain a fungicidal toxin called persin. While harmless to humans, persin attacks the cardiovascular system of the bird, causing fluid to accumulate around the heart and lungs, drowning the animal from the inside. It is a tragic irony that a creature capable of eating toxic jungle seeds can be felled by the ingredients of a simple guacamole, highlighting the evolutionary disconnect between their natural adaptations and our artificial environments. This vulnerability extends beyond what they eat to the very air they breathe, revealing the double-edged sword of their hyper-efficient respiratory system. As previously established, parrots possess a complex system of air sacs that allows for continuous oxygen absorption, making them elite athletes of the air. But this efficiency means they also absorb airborne toxins with terrifying speed. The most dangerous of these invisible killers is polytetrafluoroethylene, the chemical coating known commercially as Teflon, found on non-stick cookware. When a non-stick pan is overheated on a stove, it releases odorless fumes that are mildly annoying to humans, but instantly fatal to parrots. These fumes cause a condition known as polymer fume fever, or Teflon toxicosis, which triggers massive hemorrhaging in the lungs. A healthy parrot singing in the kitchen can drop dead within minutes simply because a pan was left on the burner too long. A stark reminder that our modern conveniences are often incompatible with their prehistoric biology. Even when the threat is not acute poison, captivity offers a slower, more insidious danger in the form of malnutrition. The popular image of a parrot eating a bowl of striped sunflower seeds is equivalent to a human eating. Nothing but fast food, French fries for every meal. Sunflower seeds are incredibly high in fat and low in essential nutrients like vitamin A and calcium. In the wild, a parrot would spend hours flying and foraging, burning off thousands of calories to find a varied diet of fruits, nuts, flowers, and greens. In a cage, a sedentary bird fed a diet of pure seeds will rapidly develop fatty liver disease or hepatic lipidosis. The liver becomes enlarged and pale, clogged with fat deposits that prevent it from filtering blood, eventually leading to liver failure. This condition is the single most common cause of premature death in pet parrots, a disease entirely manufactured by the misconception that they are simple seed eaters rather than complex foragers. This dietary complexity is further illustrated by their relationship with a plant that brings grown men to tears: the chili pepper. Mammals, including humans, have receptors in their mouths that react to capsaicin, the chemical oil that gives peppers their heat, creating a sensation of burning pain. This is the plant's way of saying, "Do not eat me," because mammals grind seeds with their molars, destroying them. Parrots, however, are completely immune to capsaicin. They lack the specific vanilloid receptors that trigger the burning sensation. To a parrot, a ghost pepper or a habanero is simply a crunchy, tasty snack, indistinguishable from a mild bell pepper. This immunity is not an accident, but a result of coevolution. Because parrots often swallow seeds whole or drop them while flying, they are excellent dispersal agents. The pepper plant evolved to repel the destructive mammals with pain while welcoming the flying parrots with flavor, ensuring its seeds are spread far and wide across the forest. While they are famous for eating seeds and peppers, the classification of parrots as strict vegetarians is a biological half-truth. In the wild, many parrot species are opportunistic omnivores. The relentless demand for protein, especially during the breeding season when chicks are growing feathers at an explosive rate, drives them to hunt. New Zealand's kea is famous for scavenging meat, but even the seemingly gentle lorikeets and cockatoos have been observed tearing into tree bark to extract wood-boring beetle larvae. In Australia, parrots have been seen picking clean the carcasses of roadkill or snatching insects out of the air. This drive for protein and minerals is so strong that in some grim instances, captive parrots kept in crowded conditions have turned to cannibalism or self-mutilation if their dietary needs are not met. Their bodies are high-performance machines that require a complex mix of amino acids to build the keratin for their feathers and beaks, and they will source these building blocks from wherever they can find them. Among these nutritional needs, calcium stands out as a critical element, particularly for the African gray parrot. This species has a unique physiological quirk. it is exceptionally prone to hypocalcemia, or dangerously low blood calcium levels. Unlike other parrots that can mobilize calcium stored in their bones to balance their blood levels, African greys seem to lack this efficient buffering mechanism. If their diet lacks sufficient calcium and vitamin D3, which is necessary to absorb the mineral, they can suffer from brittle bones and terrifying seizures. A grey suffering from a calcium crash may fall from its perch, thrashing on the floor in a state of tetany, a condition that can be fatal if not treated with immediate calcium injections. This sensitivity necessitates a diet rich in leafy greens, almonds, and specialized pellets, proving that caring for these birds requires the knowledge of a dietitian. In the southern hemisphere, the dietary quirks of parrots veer from the medical to the recreational. The nectar feeding. Lorikeets of Australia have a high sugar diet that makes them susceptible to a natural phenomenon that looks suspiciously like a pub crawl. During the humid summer months, the nectar in certain flowers can ferment naturally in the heat, turning into a mild alcohol. Lorikeets, driven by their voracious appetite, will consume this fermented nectar in vast quantities. The result is drunken parrot season, a time when animal hospitals are flooded with birds exhibiting all the classic signs of intoxication: loss of coordination, inability to fly, falling out of trees, and a loss of fear towards humans and predators. These inebriated birds must be given fluids and kept safe until they sober up, suffering from what is essentially a massive avian hangover. This behavior underscores the risks of a high sugar metabolism in a volatile environment. Underlying all these dietary behaviors, from eating clay to drinking alcohol, is the fundamental engine of the parrot, a blazing fast metabolic rate. Small species like budgerigars and parrotlets have heart rates that can exceed hundreds of beats per minute. This internal furnace burns through fuel with terrifying speed, meaning that a small parrot can starve to death in as little as 24 to 48 hours if deprived of food. They do not have the fat reserves of a reptile or a large mammal to tide them over. This high metabolic cost is the price they pay for their intelligence and their flight. Every moment of their lives is a race to find the next calorie to keep the fire burning, driving the relentless curiosity and energy that defines their existence. They are not merely perched decorations. They are biological dynamos, consuming the world with a hunger that matches their vibrancy. This high-octane metabolic engine, which drives them to consume the world with such vibrancy, typically comes with a strict biological expiration date. In the animal kingdom, there is a general rule of thumb. Creatures with blazing fast heart rates and high energy outputs, like shrews, hummingbirds, and mice, usually burn out and die within a few short years. Parrots, however, defy this physiological rule with a paradox that has puzzled biologists for decades. They combine the high-performance engine of a Ferrari with the durability and longevity of a tortoise. There is no greater testament to this endurance than the legendary Major Mitchell's cockatoo, named Cookie. He arrived at the Brookfield Zoo near Chicago in 1934, a time when the world was in the grip of the Great Depression and commercial aviation was in its infancy. Cookie lived to see the entirety of the Second World War, the invention of television, the moon landing, the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the rise of the Internet. He finally passed away in 2016 at the astounding age of 83. He did not merely survive, he thrived, outliving generations of zookeepers and becoming a feathered patriarch who proved that these birds are not temporary pets, but lifelong companions capable of spanning human generations. This extreme longevity implies that a parrot purchased by a young adult is essentially a commitment for life, often requiring the bird to be included in wills and estate planning, a level of responsibility that few other pets demand. However, this longevity, when combined with naturally slow reproductive rates, makes certain species incredibly precious, both biologically and financially. The palm cockatoo, a Gothic-looking bird with smoky black plumage, a crimson cheek patch, and a massive guillotine-like beak, is widely considered the most expensive parrot to legally acquire. Prices for a weaned individual often exceed $16,000. This astronomical cost is not merely a reflection of its stunning, prehistoric appearance, but a result of its agonizingly slow breeding cycle. Unlike a chicken that lays daily, a palm cockatoo may lay only one egg every 2 years, and the success rate for that single egg is notoriously low. This scarcity in the market is mirrored by a terrifying scarcity in the wild for other species, where the value is not measured in dollars, but in the handful of heartbeats remaining. The orange-bellied parrot, a small migratory jewel from Tasmania, and the flightless kakapo of New Zealand share the tragic title of the most endangered parrots on Earth. With wild populations hovering in the mere hundreds, and at times dipping into the dozens, these birds are teetering on the precipice of oblivion. They are currently managed by scientists who know every surviving individual by name, fighting a desperate battle against genetic bottlenecks and invasive predators to ensure that millions of years of evolutionary history do not end in our lifetime. While the giants, like the cockatoos and macaws, command the highest prices and the lion's share of conservation attention, the intellectual heavyweight champion of the parrot world, at least in terms of sheer vocabulary, is one of the smallest and most common, the humble budgerigar. While African greys are famous for understanding context and cognition, a budgie named Puck holds the Guinness World Record for the largest vocabulary of any bird. Before his death, this tiny creature had mastered an astounding 1,728 distinct words. This achievement shatters the long-held scientific assumption that brain size correlates directly with verbal aptitude. Puck proved that the neural density of a bird weighing less than a slice of bread is capable of linguistic feats that rival a human toddler, suggesting that the architecture of the parrot brain is far more efficient than the mammalian model. To learn these words and navigate their complex environments, parrots rely on a visual system that is fundamentally different from the human predator gaze. We possess binocular vision, with eyes facing forward to create overlapping fields of view that grant us depth perception. Parrots, however, possess eyes located laterally on the sides of their heads. This placement gives them a nearly 360-degree field of view, allowing them to process monocular information, focusing one eye on a piece of fruit while the other independently scans the horizon for the silhouette of a hawk. To maximize this panoramic surveillance, they have evolved a neck flexibility that allows them to turn their heads a full 180 degrees. A parrot can look directly behind its own back without moving its body, a mechanical feat facilitated by extra vertebrae in their cervical column. This constant, paranoid scanning of the environment requires their sensory inputs to be kept in pristine condition, leading to a behavior that often startles new owners: the dry sneeze. If a parrot sneezes on you, it is rarely a sign of a viral infection or a cold. Instead, it is a deliberate mechanical cleaning function. They use a sharp, rapid expulsion of air to clear dust, pollen, and feather particles from their nares, the avian equivalent of nostrils. This ensures their airways remain clear for that high-performance respiratory system to function, keeping their sense of smell and air intake unobstructed. This obsession with sensory clarity extends to the very tip of their beak, which serves as their primary interface with the physical world. While we have previously explored the beak's crushing power, its tip is a marvel of sensitivity. It contains a dense cluster of specialized nerve endings known as Herbst corpuscles. These mechanoreceptors are the same structures found in the bills of ducks who forage in muddy water, and they transform the parrot's hard, keratinous beak into a tactile organ as sensitive as a human fingertip. This allows them to feel the texture of a seed shell, to find the weak point, detect the ripest part of a fruit by pressure, or gently preen the delicate pin feathers of a mate without causing damage. It bridges the gap between a weapon and a caress, allowing the same tool that snaps steel wire to handle a baby chick with infinite gentleness. When the day of sensory processing, flying, and socializing is done, the parrot retreats into a sleeping posture that is a masterclass in thermal efficiency. A healthy parrot will almost always sleep standing on one leg. This is not a balancing act, but a method of heat conservation. By pulling one leg up into the downy feathers of its belly, the bird reduces the surface area exposed to the cold air, effectively cutting heat loss from its limbs in half. Simultaneously, it will tuck its head backward, burying its beak and face into the thick, insulating feathers of the scapulars on its back. This turns the bird into a perfect, feather-lined sphere of warmth, protecting its respiratory tract from the chill and conserving the precious energy needed to face the next morning. It is a pose of vulnerability and trust, one that has endeared them to humans for millennia, leading to the very word we use to describe them. The English word parrot is not a sterile scientific label. It is a term of endearment derived from the French PARROT, which is a diminutive of the name Pierre or Peter. In the medieval era, calling a bird Little Peter was akin to calling it Little Buddy or Robin, a way of humanizing a creature that displayed such uncanny personality. This etymology reveals the core truth of our relationship with them. We do not see parrots merely as wild animals or biological specimens, but as little persons, little Peters, who speak our language, share our homes, and mirror the complexity, the brilliance, and the fragility of the human experience. Ultimately, the story of the parrot is a reflection of life at its most vibrant and its most vulnerable. From the frost-bitten slopes where the kea roams to the ancient clay licks of the Amazon, these birds have demonstrated an adaptability that borders on the miraculous. They have shown us that intelligence is not the sole province of the mammal, and that emotional depth resides in the beating heart of a bird just as surely as it does in us. By peering into their world, we have uncovered a lineage that survived the extinction of the dinosaurs, only to face the encroachment of man. Yet they meet this challenge with a resilience that is both inspiring and heartbreaking. As they gaze back at us with those lateral, all-seeing eyes, they ask for more than just a cracker or a cage. They demand our respect and our protection. The silence of a forest without the scream of a macaw or the chatter of a budgerigar would be a silence of lost potential, a void where a unique voice once spoke. It is our privilege to share this planet with such complex minds, and our duty to ensure that their story continues to be written in the skies rather than ending in the history books.